Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chris. This is our live Q&A for Definition Please at 8:43. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Asian Pacific American Media Artists of New York, Echipade NY, as well as our community partners, Asia Society, Calcars, The Light Leaks, and Saki for South Asian Women. So thank you very much. If you guys don't mind introducing yourselves and your role on the film.
Hi, I'm Sujata Day. I'm the filmmaker, director, writer, producer, and star of Definition Please.
Whatever we say will pale in comparison.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm Anna Khaja, and I play Jaya.
I'm Ritesh Rajan, and I played Sunny.
Thank you very much, you guys. It's great to have you here. And I would love to know, Sujata, where did the idea come from? What was sort of the start of this project? And for Ritesh and Anna, how did you get involved and what drew you to the project?
Yeah, for where the idea came from, I'm going to take you back to fourth grade when I won my fourth grade spelling bee. And I went to regionals and I lost in the first round on the word radish. And I spelled it with 2 Ds instead of 1. And I was devastated. But Mrs. Lewis, my chaperone teacher that was there with me, was very comforting. But ever since then, I started really become into watching the spelling bee on ESPN. And I noticed that every year it was a South Asian American kid winning the spelling bee. And then fast forward to 2015, when I was in a UCB sketch writing class, one of my sketches was themed, "Where are they now? Spelling bee winners." And you know, if you look them up, they're doing great things. They all have like triple PhDs. They're probably looking for the COVID vaccine. They're making robots. And the button of my sketch was, "This one spelling bee champion turned out to be a loser." And and then I did a Sundance Lab in 2016. Once you do one of the Sundance Writing Labs, you become an alumni of the festival. And so I decided to go to the festival for the first time in 2017. And my friend Justin Chan's movie was premiering there that year. It's called Gook. And I cornered him after watching it and was like, "Oh my God, I loved it. How did you make this happen?" And he was just like, "I got my friends and family together and we just did it. And I raised money." And I was like, "Great, that's what I'm going to do." So 2017, I started writing the feature film version of Definition Please based on that 4-page sketch. And decided on that, you know, that log line of like a former spelling bee winner is a loser in adulthood, but wanted to explore the reasons why. So I wanted to explore her relationships with her family, especially her estranged brother and her mom. And yeah, and then throughout 2017, 2018, kind of fine-tuned the script and kept rewriting it and finally shot it in 2019.
Anna, you want to go take over?
Yeah, sure. Sujata and I kind of knew each other peripherally. We had been announcers at an event together. And then one day she basically just got my contact info. I don't know if she could tell you better. And I was asked if I wanted to, I guess it went through my reps, and asked if I wanted to play the film and play the role of Jaya in the film. And so I read the script and I loved it. I thought it was unique as someone who plays, you know, POC characters a lot. A lot of times you feel that you kind of are playing the same idea over and over again, trying to bring humanity and individuality to it as best you can. But this was a unique take on a family, a POC family that I hadn't seen portrayed before, where they're just more, they're just each individuals, you know? And I think as far as the character of Jaya goes, Sujata reminded me the other day when we were doing like another Q&A that the character of Jaya was always listed, like she was always described as luminous. That was the word that she used. And when I consider taking on a role, I always, you know, I have to think about the fact that I'm going to be living in this person's skin for a little while. And does that appeal to me? And What the word luminous translated to me was something very specific about who Jaya was. This is a woman who's been through a lot of loss. She lost her husband less than a year ago. She has witnessed the break of her two children. She's witnessed her son suffering pretty terrible mental illness and suffering from that. Um, and yet she's described as luminous. So what that tells me is that this is a person who naturally goes toward hope, who naturally goes toward love, who naturally goes toward the positive, um, and joy and fun and play. And that really appealed to me.
I met Suj first time. It was at a panel, like a talk back about Asians in entertainment, and we briefly chatted there. I don't know if you had the script idea then, but
No,
then
I didn't.
we worked on a spoof of it was called a diverse film. It was a spoof on A Whole New World that Suj wrote, which was really funny. And after we filmed that little video, she's like, "Yeah, I'm writing a script about this Indian family, American Indian family from Greensburg, where she's from, and we should talk about it more." And then so one day she invited me out to lunch. She told me about the film and what it dealt with, and she's like, "Hey, so I want you to play my brother." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I haven't read it yet. So I said, "Let me read it." And I was immediately just sort of captivated with the fact that I was going to have an opportunity to play such a well-rounded, fleshed out character that is dealing with such conflict, especially as a South Asian actor. This is a rare opportunity for me to really dive deep into another person and sort of deal with his demons and his mental illness, which I think is not really kind of shown in a positive light, especially in the South Asian community, and be able to kind of just represent and show a South Asian American family in a very sort of American way, which I feel like a lot of the times we're just stereotyped. And it just kind of gave an opportunity for others to just take a look at the, inner workings of this American family and all of the conflicts that they have to go through, the highs and the lows and the love and the hate.
Thank you so much, you guys. Actually, I believe it or not, I'm a UCB sketch writing alum myself, and so I'm especially curious to know, obviously writing a feature film seems like it would be a much sort of different undertaking, but do you think that there's some overlap? How do you think that sketch writing has given you the tools to write feature films?
Wow. Improv and sketch writing, I owe my entire career to, UCB pretty much. I think I was doing a lot of scene study classes. I was doing a lot of, hardcore actor classes where they make you like become an animal and do animal sounds and repeat these words over and over. And you're just like, what are we doing? It's like the acting classes out of Barry. And so once I started doing improv, I was like, oh, wow, this is so freeing. And it was helping me, even in my drama auditions. It was not only just helping me for comedy. And then I had always been writing scripts. And then I took the sketch writing class, and you're forced to write a sketch every single week, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And that is such a good deadline to have for a writer, to just have to turn something in, even if it's shitty. And I just love that kind of writing. That's when I write my scripts, like my first rough draft of Definition Please was terrible, as is everyone's rough draft of anything. And how I go about writing a script, especially the first draft of it, is I just get out the pages. And even if, like, I know what scene is supposed to be there, so I outline it pretty well. And then I'm like, okay, I have to write this scene. And then I write it, and it's probably terrible. But then I know that my next scene I have a really great idea for. So I'll just like force through this one scene to get to the next scene. And I know that all my writing will be in my rewriting process. And I feel like something that sketch / improv does in your brain is it allows you to take out that censorship that you have for the first time of getting an idea out there, whether it's in performing or writing, and you just get it out there. And if you fail, you fail. But at least in terms of writing a script, you have the opportunity of failing in that first draft and then just making it better in the subsequent drafts.
That's great. Wow, what a great answer. I feel like definitely inspiring for me. I don't know how many of my sketches could become feature films, but maybe have to think
Every
about that.
single one of them.
Everyone.
No, maybe I'll have to revisit. But anyway, as we were talking about before, today is actually World Mental Health Day. And in this film, I think that you've really done a great job working to depict this character who has bipolar disorder in a very realistic way. And I'm curious, Sujata, if you could speak about how you were able to write that, and then Ritesh, in terms of your performance, how were you able to, or how are you able to sort of create that realistic portrayal?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a very interesting community where I would, I'm from the suburbs, Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and I went to a very white school system, so white middle school, high school, but I was really lucky in that we have 3 temples in the Pittsburgh area, 3 Hindu temples. And so on the weekends, I would be hanging out with my Indian friends. I went to Hindu camp in the summertime. I was always going to parties with my parents. We hosted a Thanksgiving every year for the Indian American families in the area. And so I grew up with these, with my friends and acquaintances going through a lot of pressure in terms of getting good grades, SAT scores, getting into the best colleges. And I noticed that there was a lot of mental illness among us. And one of my friends ran away from home for 2 weeks, and his parents were saying, "Oh my gosh, why would he run away? He gets everything. He has a roof over his head. We feed him. He gets everything he wants." And we're like, "No, he's just like depressed and he doesn't want to take the SATs this week for the 5th time." And so I grew up around a lot of that model minority pressure that parents put on their kids. But I have a mental illness in my extended family. So I based the character on, a couple different things in my real life. And I wanted to portray it in a very authentic, real, grounded way where I haven't like super seen that in a film before, where it's just like, oh, this is what it is. This is how the people around him deal with it. And, I also talked to some professionals, in the medical industry, and talked to some doctors, and just like made sure that I got the medicines right, and I got the vocabulary and the language right, because I feel like I had the emotion, and then I just wanted to make sure that I tackled it correctly in a technical way as well. Chris keeps going in and out.
Yeah, did he freeze? Should I wait? I don't know if I should wait for him to come back.
I don't know, Tesh, I think you can go into.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, and the preparation, I was very lucky. This is when I always laugh, being from a stereotypical Indian family. Both my parents are doctors. The majority of my aunts and uncles are all doctors. So I had tons of, medical journals and, resources just kind of at my hand just to go through, read through, obviously, online medical journals. I talked to a lot of my friends who are in the medical field, psychiatrists, psychologists. And I obviously spoke to Suj quite a bit about her experiences and what those personal experiences for her translate to the page. And so I was using all the clues that I could get from the script. I always like to see what other characters say about your character, because then you can get a really, well-rounded sort of perception of what this human being is. And for me, specifically, I focused on borderline personality disorder. And there's a certain balance to certain characters, and his balance is obviously off kilter and more violent. So, if there's moments of happiness, it's not that it's stable happiness. It's almost like a pendulum is swinging towards happiness, which means it's going to come swinging back in the other direction, right? And so it was just about making it as authentic and as nuanced as I could to match Suja's experiences that she was facing in her real life and what she was putting on the page. So for me, ultimately, I just wanted to create a character that was relatable, and you could see the pain from both his own personal point of view and from the outside character's point of view.
Thank you so much. And also, I just want you to know, although I understand that I think my internet was being weird, I was here with you the whole time.
Okay, great. I could feel it. I felt you.
Yeah. It was like I was like out of body experience a little bit. But
Got it.
I got you. But thank you so much. You guys really seem like, watching the film, it's very apparent that you guys sort of developed like this real sort of family on set. I'm curious to know, for each of you, what was your favorite moment working together on set?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. I feel
That's
like I
tough.
have so many favorite moments, but I will say, I think my favorite scene to shoot was when Monica's in bed with Jaya. I thought that
love
was like
that.
really fun and sweet, and we were just like in the pocket, and I could just feel our love for each other in that moment. It
Yeah.
was like really great. And obviously we're in my parents' bed. So I'm always comforted in my parents' bed. So maybe that was part of it.
I had the same experience. That was really special. I'll never forget that. That was it. Just, I don't know. Sometimes the magic just happens. You know what I mean? And that was really special. And then I think I just really liked the treehouse scene where we smoked weed together.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a good one.
Yeah. It's always fun.
Man,
you don't get to like get high very often. I mean, on screen, I mean.
Man, this is tough. I feel like I have so many. I really enjoyed doing the scene where like everyone was over with your mom, Suj. And remember, she was in the scene, and just having everyone there and the energy. It's rare to be able to show the South Asian experience. So for me, every moment felt special. And obviously, most people, I don't know, maybe a lot of people know this, Anna played my mom in another show that I was in as well. So we had a strong mother-son connection. So I always felt very, very comfortable around her. And I remember the scene where I think Sue just bringing lunch, and we're like flipping through the Bollywood trades.
Yeah.
And like, I just remember, like, I was just like curled up in a ball on your shoulder, like in her lap,
know.
and I was like making fun of her, and it honestly, it felt like home, and it's just like, just being in Suj's childhood home, and with all the picture
Yeah.
frames and the knickknacks, like it feels, I mean, it is real. That's real people live there, and we're kind of coming into their space, and I felt right at home. So.
Thank you so much. Keeping that in mind, I guess I'm curious then to ask you, Sujata, to what extent were there these sort of almost, I guess, autobiographical elements to this story and to the performance?
Yeah, so I, on every project that I write or work on, I always take like a snippet of something real, and then I fictionalize it from there. So, I mean, I never won the Scripps National Spelling Bee, obviously, but I told you that I won, my 4th grade spelling bee. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, oh, this is like one thing that happened, but then I will, make up what goes on from there. So there's a talent show scene in the film. And when I was growing up, I would, organize shows in my backyard for the neighborhood and charge $0.25 for people to come to these talent shows, which necessarily weren't full of talented people. so that's like something that I did when I was younger, but it wasn't like exactly the talent show that we had in the script, but it was just kind of loosely based on something that I did when I was younger. So there's a lot of that in the film where, I did this. Like, for example, I had a clubhouse growing up. It wasn't in a tree. So in one of my first versions of the script, it was written as clubhouse because that's what I remember having. But my clubhouse is gone. My parents have, turned it into, a pond and a deck to a pond, and they don't have a need for a clubhouse anymore. So we were kind of looking around, what else is available in Greensburg that we can shoot in? And my childhood friend Caitlin McHugh, who was also our production designer, her family had a treehouse, and I was like, this is even better. So I just switched it to a treehouse, and we shot it there. So that's how I approach a lot of my scripts. So I start with something real, whether it's like a familial connection or a moment that has happened to me, and then I fictionalize it from there.
Did you encourage any sort of ad-libbing or improv on set?
We actually stuck to the script pretty well, but I don't think I'm not someone who's like, oh my god, you have to get my words correctly. But it felt like we stuck to the script pretty well. I think improv is encouraged more when you have more time to shoot things.
Yeah.
Indie filmmaking,
So that's not really a luxury that we had.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. No, it just because you guys all come across so natural. I wondered like if that sort of talent show, variety showy thing that you guys have, how much was that? I mean, that seems like it was completely scripted then, what you guys were doing.
So a lot of that was, I would say, like 98% scripted, and the only unscripted part of that scene was Tesh singing "Happy Birthday."
Yeah,
got it.
That was like a transition.
I think a lot of our kind of quips and jabs to each other were ad-libbed, but like the structured lines, like, we had those. They were written. So
Great.
Yeah,
that was a fun day.
I remember maybe improvising twice, just if the camera kept rolling and maybe a little of that stayed in there. Or if we had gotten a take that we were happy with, maybe just this one, let's play. But again, we didn't have that many takes.
Yeah.
The director
Indie
that you're
film,
acting
baby, indie
yeah,
film.
when the director that you're acting across from is always like, we got it, let's move on.
We got,
No, well, she's rigorous. She's just, but I will say, like, all three of us have she does run a tight ship. She in the best, most positive way, but like all three of us come from the theater. And Tesh and Suj like also are dancers and singers and all of that. And so I think when you come from with theater backgrounds, you're just trained to stick to the lines. If someone asks you to improv, you do, but it's not really an issue sticking to the lines. You just kind of come with your lines. So
I actually have an audience question for Sujata. So do you feel there is a drawback to being both the writer and the actress, and of course also the director? And do you encourage people who are interested in independent filmmaking to do that, to put on multiple hats, or do you think that there should be more of a separation of skills?
So I really enjoyed having all of those jobs. I realized that I love being the boss. So that was really fun. And I loved having, last decision on literally everything, which was such a powerful, majestic position to have. I really encourage it, especially actors right now. What are we doing? Nobody's really auditioning, nobody's really producing stuff. So you need to take charge of your own career. And in order to do that, you got to be a writer, you got to be a director, you got to be a producer. And the only advice that I will give in terms of that is you have to be over prepared for everything. So you can't go into it being like, okay, the script is halfway there. I sort of know what the film's going to look like. I sort of know like what my actors can accomplish, and I have a quarter of the money. So you can't go into filmmaking half-ass. You have to go into it 110% fully prepared. And even if that means like a 4-minute YouTube video, go into that 4-minute YouTube video 110% prepared. Have that script, know what your actors can do, know what you can do as an actor yourself, and then learn everything you can about directing if you're also putting yourself in that position, and put yourself through directing school. If you haven't been to film school, it's really easy right now. You know, I've been spending this quarantine watching the AFI movies that I've never watched before. And I'm learning so much about filmmaking. And, you know, recently I've watched like Midnight Cowboy, The Graduate again, and The Godfather. I'd never seen The Godfather. And it's like such a beautiful history of film that is out there at your fingertips on Canopy for free. You know, like if you have a friggin' library card, you can watch these films. I watch Rashomon. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing all of the things except yourself. Who's like, oh, I'm an actor. I can't write. I can't produce. I can't direct. Just go out there and do it. And don't be afraid. Like, even if what you put out is shitty, don't worry about it, because you know what? One of the best things that I've also done is all these directors that have done so much incredible work, go back and look at their first films. And then you will be so inspired to do your own stuff, because you're like, oh, Bong Joon-ho wasn't Bong Joon-ho when he did Barking Dogs Never Bite, you know? And so Barking Dogs Never Bite is an amazing film, but as an independent filmmaker, I'm watching it being like, oh, I can do that. Whereas if I watch Parasite, which is an amazing film, you're like, oh, I don't have the money to do that.
That's great.
But it's really important to go back and watch those first films and be inspired.
That's great. I totally agree. I would love to make the time now to ask what I've been wanting to know this whole time. How did you get LeVar Burton? What was the story behind that?
So LeVar, a couple years ago, so 3 or 4 years ago, me and some of my friends started something called the Blurred Brunch, which is Black and brown nerds getting together every Sunday. And we would physically go to a restaurant and just have brunch, and usually would turn into like 4 to 6 hour brunches over a Sunday. And we go every week. We were probably like 2 years in. So about 2 years ago, LeVar kind of walked by the restaurant, and one of our fellow blurreds, Yvette Nicole Brown, saw him and was like, oh, it's LeVar. I'm going to go say hi. And we were all like, oh my God, she's like LeVar Burton. And then she brought him to the table and introduced him to all of us. And there were like 2 guys that started crying upon meeting him. And then something cool that he did that day, he like joined us for brunch, and he was like, okay, everybody pull out your phones. Here's my phone number. Don't be afraid to text me or call me, you know, whenever you want. And we were all like, whoa, we're going to have LeVar Burton's phone number in our cell phone? Crazy. And then, I mean, I had written this role for him in my movie, and I was just like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go for it. And I texted him. I was like, hey, would you be into this? And he was obviously like, send me the script. So I was like, here's the script. Here's your scene. And he wrote back, and he's like, you wrote me so well. Like, and I was like, oh my God, that's the biggest compliment I could ever get.
That's incredible.
And then when we had already shot the principal photography for Definition Please, and we came back to LA and shot that on green screen. And so LeVar came in, and it was a very small set and crew. And then after we were done filming his segment, he once again did something very giving and lovely. He was like, okay, so does anybody want a picture with me? To all the cast and crew. And so like everyone lined up like one by one to take a picture with LeVar Burton. And it was just like such a lovely thing, you know? It was great working with him. He was so wonderful.
That sounds like a dream. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you guys. I would love to ask before we finish up, what are you guys working on now? What's next for you guys, if anything, if you feel like sharing?
I mean, Tash, you and Anna can go.
Currently trying to develop a couple of projects. I just had a movie drop last couple weeks ago on Netflix. Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures. It's animated. I'm the voice of Ken.
Nice.
Nice.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's classic.
Yeah, so everyone check it out. It's on Netflix, family friendly, really great stuff, and really great messaging. It's very empowering, I think, for the upcoming youth and especially for the female audience. So there you go.
Awesome. I am the female lead in another indie feature film called Rumble Strip, which has distribution and you should be able to see it on wherever you can find streaming things as of October 20th. So pretty soon.
That's awesome.
And it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of Mad Max. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. Very artistic, and proud of it. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds great.
Cool. I've just been writing and stuff through quarantine. So I wrote a pilot, I wrote my second feature, and I'm just prepping for the day we get out of COVID and I can get back on set.
We'll be checking those things out and looking forward to that, Sujata. Thank you so much for your time. If you guys out there haven't checked out Definition, please do so. And have a great rest of your day, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
You too. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Take care.
Indians have become a bigger and more central part of the culture conversation in the United States. And what happens is that it gets to the point where now, as you can see with, let's say, Chinese food, for example, it is such an integral part of everyone's meals that you can find a Chinese restaurant in basically any neighborhood in the United States. And what I'm hoping with Chapati Man and what I'm hoping for the Indian community is to be able to exert that same level of influence with food. It's still seen as a special meal that people have with Indian food. And I'm hoping that we can make it something more casual and part of the everyday conversation. And being able to provide that access to people is the first step that we need to take for it. Chapati Man is extremely proud to be a sponsor of the Asian American International Film Festival in 2020. And we hope to be a sponsor for many more years to come.
My name is Nick Sakai. I'm the National Co-Vice Chair of Asian Pacific American Media Committee, also known as APAM Committee at SAG-AFTRA. SAG-AFTRA as a labor union has been sponsoring one or two programs from the AIFF every year for the past 10 years. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, the union itself was not able to sponsor any of the programs, but that didn't stop us as committee members from getting involved in certain capacities, because after all, we committee members, we're all actors, and we've been to this film festival either as one of the filmmakers or one of the cast members of the films, and we're very proud to be able to co-sponsor this film along with the restaurant partner Chapati Mani. One of the cast members of the film, Parvesh China, you may have seen him on many TV shows such as Crazy Ex-Girlfriends, Outsourced, the most recently with All Rise, and he's been on a couple of Transformer films as well. He's also one of our committee members as well as the national board members of SAG-AFTRA, so that definitely factored into a decision to pick this particular film. So I hope you enjoy this. There will be a Q&A with cast members and filmmakers. Thank you very much for Asian CineVision, John Woo, Kayla Wong, Eunice Chen, and hope to see you afterwards. Thank you very much.